Okay, I've often said that there's very few sources of news that I think are complete crap, and I guess the one that I always say is complete crap is Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone is a publication that got me back into writing and blogging. Maybe, I don't know if before that I even cared about writing and blogging that much. Maybe I did once in a while. It was usually not even current events related or anything related to social issues. I was never as political as when. Let's move the screen a little further this way. Move that one a little further that way. How does that look? Okay. Anyway, so like I was just talking with just my stupid opinion like about an hour and a half ago, and we were saying, there's so much crap going on that things just you lose attention, you lose your you can't keep track of all the garbage. And this happened in April. I did see people were saying back then, oh, they're going to try to connect Russia and the NRA, and they did try, and I missed the full story of it, but the full story is so ridiculous. They make up this. They don't make it up, but there was an article. There was a visit in November 2013 by the NRA president David Keene to a gun lobby in Moscow, as if Vladimir Putin wants people walking around and who don't work for him having guns. Yeah, that's really how he wants. that's how he wants to hang on to power. Vladimir Putin. He, as a former KGB chief, I think he wants firearms advocates walking around telling people in his country, oh, you guys should own guns and not trust the government. That really works in his favor. Keane underscored his friendship with Alexander Torzhin, a top politician in the ruling party of Vladimir Putin. For the past 3 years, Keane said, I've hosted your Senator Alexander Torzhin at the National Rifle Association's annual meetings. In words that now carry a darker connotation, Keane insisted, we need to work together. Wow, so who's this Alexander Torzhin? So he is, he's just some higher level member of, he's a higher member level of these, of the Russian government from Kamchatka, which is all the way on the other end of Russia. But they're like, he's involved in the NRA. I guess, as if I give a shit. I'm not even in the NRA. So they're trying to make the case that this proves that there's a Russian nexus where, the NRA is affected by Russia, and therefore Russia is affecting our political process. So Torzhin, now 64, is a roly-poly politician. Oh, that's a bit of fat shaming, Rolling Stone. By the way, Rolling Stone, what do we usually say about fat shaming? So yeah, they the same month they do I Feel Pretty review. Is this Amy Schumer comedy fat shaming away the funny? They give it 2 stars and justifiably, because it was a shitty movie from what I heard from every single reviewer. As part of Putin's active measures, Hall says, Russia has attempted to influence right-wing and populist factions abroad, preaching unity around social conservatism. We're both religious-based countries. We have the Orthodox Church. That's a big deal for us. The Russians, Hall believes, made a natural transition in the United States to the NRA. Over time, Putin became determined to exploit the American gun lobby and decided Mr. Torzhin is going to be the guy for him. Keane proved an easy mark, a career lobbyist who advised presidential candidates from Ronald Reagan to Mitt Romney. So what's this supposed to mean? That a lobbyist who has been serving all of these people from Reagan to Mitt Romney, does that mean that Mitt Romney is a Russian agent? Because I think you'd pretty much lose your credibility there, because he's been one of the biggest critics of Donald Trump. He was a longtime chair of the American Conservative Union, which organizes the annual CPAC convention. NRA board member Grover Norquist has praised Keene. So they don't realize they could just as easily make the case now that Grover Norquist, who's the head of Americans for Tax Reform, and is one of the best leaders, I guess, in the conservative movement right now, because he's for repealing a lot of the taxes. So he has praised Keene as a conservative Forrest Gump who's been at the center of all things conservative for decades. So that's like the scene from that movie where Forrest Gump is like literally in every historical moment. Keene, with a sweep of white hair, owlish glasses, and a patrician bearing, might move in cutthroat political circles, but friends say his personality runs against type. He's like a teddy bear, says Alan Gottlieb, founder of the Second Amendment Foundation, who has known Keene for decades. He's not hard-edged at all. He's a gentleman. Keene did not respond to multiple interview requests. Well, with this type of detail, I mean, why would anybody want to answer it? Torsion and Keene forged a quick friendship. Just a brief note to let you know just how much I enjoyed meeting in Pittsburgh during the NRA annual meeting. Keene wrote in a 2011 letter, later obtained by anti-corruption activists in Russia. So I want to understand this. Does this mean that in 2012, the Mitt Romney campaign, because they accepted help from the NRA too, does that mean that they were infiltrated by Russia? So this is all before all the crap in Ukraine and Crimea and all that. So does that mean that the NRA has been under infiltration by the NRA under Mitt Romney, who, by the way, all of the crazy Never Trump retards are supporters of his? Because that's how far back this stupid trail of evidence goes. I mean, they were accepting money back then. So does that, I mean, with all this time machine shit like Lennon McCarthy's been saying, shouldn't that extend to that as well? If there's anything any of us can do to help you in your endeavors, please don't hesitate to let us know. Torsion's endeavors included a plan to back a gun rights group in Moscow. We will start organizing our own Russian NRA. Torsion soon tweeted out, how's that worked? The NRA president seemed flattered seeing Torsion as a powerful Russian eager to build a gun organization that mirrored his own, and even secured a Russian translation of the NRA charter. But Russia experts believe Torsion's interest in U.S. gun culture masked a dark ulterior motive. So here we go. It's all a big charade, basically. Glenn Simpson, founder of the research firm behind the infamous Steele dossier, testified to the House Intelligence Committee. Much of what passes for civil society in modern Russia is, in fact, controlled by Putin. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee published the January 2018 report on Putin's asymmetric assault on democracy, which describes how the Kremlin has sought to co-opt civil society by devoting massive resources to the creation and activities of state-sponsored and state-controlled NGOs. Look, if he wants to waste his fucking money on that, what are you supposed to do? Invade Russia? Some of these faux grassroots groups, but you mean like Indivisible, buttress the Kremlin's domestic agenda. Others are projections of Putin's foreign policy. Senator Ben Cardin, the ranking Democrat on the committee, says it is common for Russian groups that appear to be independent but are really Putin groups to build relationships with civic groups in Western democracies like the NRA to have tentacles, Cardin says, to try and influence public opinion here in the United States is certainly part of Putin's MO. Hall agrees the idea of private gun ownership is anathema to Putin, he says. So then the question is why? Why was a pro-gun campaign being hatched by a leader in Putin's own party? The answer, according to Hall, is that Putin was baiting a trap. He's reaching out to attract the NRA specifically over to Russia. The FBI is now investigating whether Torsion, the current deputy governor of the Russian central bank, illegally funneled cash to the NRA to support the election of Donald Trump. That would still not be implicating Donald Trump. It would. I mean, what were they supposed to do? Indict Torsion? And it's legal to donate to the NRA even if you're a foreign government, according to a report by McClatchy that has sparked a probe. If it's illegal for Russia to donate to the NRA, then why is it not illegal for George Soros to donate to BLM? Why is it not then illegal for George Soros to donate to the MacArthur Foundation? Okay? So, MacArthur Foundation, George Soros. So, this is from Newsbusters. So, $25 million to liberal Soros-backed media from the MacArthur Foundation. Okay? And, you know, it's. I mean, how many things do you have to do? And those that say, oh, but Soros is a U.S. citizen. So what? So what? So he immigrated here, and now he was doing this stuff before he was an immigrant too, by the way. All right, the NRA spent an unprecedented $30 million to install Trump in the White House. No, that would include all the money they spent on the primaries. Okay, and that would include funding candidates besides Donald Trump as well. The other primary candidates. You know. So here, NRA donations. Let's pick a random person in the 2016 election. Let's say, who's one of the other losers that was in there? Chris Christie. Yeah, I mean, they donated to Chris Christie. Are they accusing Chris Christie of being a Russian pawn? No, not yet. And now he's a pawn of Hostess cakes or something, because he's not governor anymore. So I mean, because Rolling Stone fat shamed this Torsion guy, I can also do the same thing to Chris Christie. If the Kremlin's NRA outreach culminated in pumping vast sums into the group's coffers, America's lax campaign finance regulations would have posed no obstacle. There are so many ways. So then, therefore, nothing illegal happened. That's what you're trying to say. There are so many ways that a group like the NRA could be used to channel Russian money into a race. It's shocking, said Robert McGuire, who investigates dark money for the Center for Responsive Politics. In a letter to Congress, the NRA has denied wrongdoing. It has not denied accepting Russian money. Right, because it's not legal. It's not. The notion that the flag-waving NRA of Eddie Eagle was British, by the way, has allied itself with the maybe I'm thinking of a different Eddie Eagle. There's Eddie the Eagle from Britain, and then there's Eddie Eagle, I think is the NRA logo, has allied itself with the Russian bear and the government of former KGB Colonel Vladimir Putin can be hard to fathom. I mean, but I mean, how is it hard to fathom for the Democratic Party, which is, basically sold out to China? No disrespect to China, by the way. Again. But an investigation by Rolling Stone establishes deeper ties between the NRA and Russia than previously reported. The record reveals the union was the product of a sophisticated Russian influence campaign nearly a decade in the making. So they started donating before the past election, before 2016, when Mitt Romney. So they're not accusing Mitt Romney for some reason. But they are accusing Donald Trump. So it's a double standard even with respect to the Republicans. The record reveals this union was a product of a sophisticated Russian influence campaign nearly a decade in the making. By November 2016, Torsion greeted Trump's election victory as a foregone conclusion, specifically pointing to his and the president-elect's joint connection with the NRA. This striking personality has fascinated me for a long time, he tweeted in Russian. Was sure of his victory. Oh, that's such proof. Using a tweet of him. It doesn't say, I mean, look at this. So it's in Russian. It says, Я давно интересовался этой яркой фигурой. Уже 7 год я whatever NRA, в которой он очень и очень давно был уверен в его победе. So then people are now, they're tweeting to him, Mueller is coming, or yeah, really, he's so he's so concerned about Bob Mueller, another person that he can't subpoena. It's very, very, very nice. You have more people that Mueller can't subpoena. And there's no evidence of actual ties between Torsion and Donald Trump himself. And then by Torsion's own account, his affiliation with the Russian gun lobby, the American gun lobby began around 2010 when he became a member of the NRA. His passion for firearms is genuine. So then there's no reason why he shouldn't be a member of the NRA. Torsion counted General Mikhail Kalashnikov, the inventor of the AK-47, as a friend and has tweeted, I love guns. Nearly as soon as Torsion joined the NRA, he began targeting the gun lobby's leadership, leaning on he's a senior person in Russia, and, he wants to meet senior people in America. And in 2010, you have to remember that America was going through the Russian reset under Obama. So at the time, there was nothing bad about being associated with Russians. So you could say that this whole, even if there was anything bad going on here, the blame lies with the American administration. It lies with Secretary of State Clinton and President Obama. Probably more so Obama than Clinton, because from what I hear, she didn't actually have much control over U.S. foreign policy. So they go leaning on a friend, a Nashville lawyer named G. Klein Preston IV. I've probably known him 10 years, Preston says of Torsion. He's one of the finest people I know. He's a very capable, intelligent, honest man, a very devout Orthodox Christian, very serious about his faith. Okay, so you're saying is you're asking people who have no proof he's done anything illegal. Preston is a jovial Russophile. He studied abroad in Soviet Leningrad in the late 80s on his way to an undergraduate degree in Russian language and literature. He has moonlighted as a vodka importer and a trader on the post-Soviet stock exchange. Again, nothing illegal there. In 2006, Preston opened a sister law office in St. Petersburg, where his practice areas included lobbying members of government bodies in the United States and the Russian Federation. Torsion met Preston through mutual Russian contacts, and he invited the lawyer to speak to the Russian Senate in 2009. I'm very pro-Putin, honestly, Preston says in a rich southern drawl. He's been fantastic for Russia. Again, nothing to do with Donald Trump. A campaign banner from Putin's 2012 election hangs in Preston's Nashville office, also decorated with Russian nesting dolls of the Trump family. Preston believes Russia shares the values of the American South, but his own views are reactionary. He calls the Civil War the war for Southern independence, the Confederate Constitution an improvement, and has blasted Lincoln as a terrorist and a war criminal. In 2013, he posted a meme on Twitter of Barack Obama looking unmanly in comparison to the buff, shirtless Russian leader. Right, because I think you're all aware that I think he's referring to this one. So it might have been this one too. There's also, yeah, that one, for example. I don't know which one. How many of these do you need? This one is clearly photoshopped. And yeah, I think it was this one. This is the one I remember. So they're complaining about this. Millions of people tweeted that. The other stuff about the the South or whatever. I mean, you could say it's bad taste, or it's opinions that are unfashionable or offensive to some people. It doesn't prove anything about criminal activity. But this is the way that they gin up the readership of the Rolling Stone to say, oh, he must be very reactionary and evil if he's talking about the Confederacy in a positive light, and therefore Russia is also racist. So we should also, basically assume the worst about people even when there is no proof. It's the same thing that they do all the time about, they'll talk, they'll just yell Charlottesville for no reason. The Nashville lawyer saw nothing odd about his Russian friend's desire to meet the NRA president. Torsion is a gun enthusiast, he says, and although Preston attends the annual NRA meetings, he didn't know Keene personally. I just called him out of, so then what the fuck do you care? I just called him out of the blue, Preston says. I told him, hey, I got a friend who was interested in the NRA, gun rights, that kind of stuff. He happens to be a Russian senator. Yeah, okay, so who cares? The NRA welcomed the outreach. Russia's essentially a gun-free zone since Bolsheviks took power, Preston explains. Rifles and shotguns are commonly owned. Handguns are tightly restricted. You have Russia, so that actually means exactly what he's saying, that you can't conceal a shotgun or a rifle in your coat unless it's sawed off. You have Russian politicians and other citizens working to change that. Senator Torsion is one of those people, he adds. The obvious place to look to see a successful gun rights organization is the United States and the NRA. So, then what about this? You have Planned Parenthood Global, going, yeah, look. So is this bad? Is this a bad thing? Burkina Faso, these are all third world nations where these are non-white peoples that they're killing people. They're killing people's kids, basically. Burkina Faso, Ecuador. I actually know somebody from Ecuador. Uganda, Nigeria, I know somebody from there. Peru, I've met a few people from Peru, in fact. Senegal, don't know anybody from there. Nicaragua, where they probably have a few problems lately. Mexico, Guatemala. So that's their answer. We're going to kill people in Ecuador. We're going to kill people in Burkina Faso. That's the Planned Parenthood. So why don't they have an objection to that? I'm just asking. I think it's a double standard. Own firearms abroad versus killing infants abroad. I think there's got to be some sort of double standard there. Maybe even more than a double standard, I would say. Speaking on the phone from Tennessee and Moscow, where he traveled in March to act as an observer of the presidential election of Putin, which independent monitors have called a sham, Preston flatly denies that his Russian friends were meddling in the U.S. election. These allegations are laughable, he says. I have no knowledge of it, never saw any indications. It's a red herring, man. Like when we were kids, they sent us on snipe hunts, a bird that doesn't exist. Well, yeah, this is bullshit. There's nothing here. They haven't even mentioned how this guy influenced any votes or, they just said that some people in the NRA know somebody in Russia. But as early as 2012, when Torsion attended the NRA convention as a VIP guest of the Russian president. So where's this? Нет принимал президент NRA. Очень все было достойно на это. I actually don't know what I'm reading. I can read it. I happen to know how to read Russian, but here, why don't we just translate the page? No, hosted by the president of the NRA, very much always worthy. At this Congress, we were guests at the highest level. So, yeah, he claimed that he was... So he claims he was a VIP member. Good for him. Like I give a shit either way. His fascination with U.S. gun culture is twinned with an interest in presidential politics. That November, he was in Nashville as an observer of the contest between Obama and Romney. Oh, Ooh, ooh, Romney. I set that up, says Preston, but torsions bona fides with the Rifle Association smooth his path. My NRA card, he boasted on Twitter, opened the doors to any polling stations for me. Torsion inspected electronic voting machines and election queues. Spotting posters of Obama hanging in one precinct, a violation of election norms. Torsion, I think, snapped pictures and sent them to Moscow immediately, Preston recalls. So a Russian observed violations of American election rules by the president, Barack Obama. Torsion also traveled to D.C., making two intriguing stops, one at the headquarters of the NRA, the other at the residence of Sergei Kislyak, the Russian ambassador to the United States, whose frequent contacts with Trump campaign figures have raised red flags with investigators. Yeah, they're red flags that have led nowhere. So because he went to D.C., which happens to be the capital of the United States of America, and one of the stops he made there was the NRA headquarters, and the other one was the embassy of the country where he's an official. So that appears to be, it's like they're doing some sort of drunk test. Can both hands touch the same nose? Well, if they can both touch the same nose, it's just, everything's in order. Where is the criminal activity here on the part of anybody? Over the next year, Torsion's access and influence in the NRA continued to grow. At the 2013 convention in Houston, Gottlieb recalls, Torsion was presented with the gift of a rifle. 3,000 delegates of the NRA conference greeted me with an ovation, Torsion tweeted. He also snapped photos of a ceremony for the Golden Ring of Freedom, the NRA's high society for $1 million lifetime donors, many of them gun executives. So I'm not trying to not read the whole thing today, but we can maybe do a sequel some other time. But I'm just going to read the comments here. And it's largely, and this is for Rolling Stone. This is how bad it is. You have this one person, Ann Pellegrino, fellow Americans, no matter your political ideology, whether right, left, democratic, socialist, libertarian, green, or any ideology in between them, and no matter whether you're pro-guns, anti-guns, or any other gun stance in between them. This Rolling Stone and the referenced early McClatchy reports. Yes, McClatchy, the same people that said Tim Canova is basically... they said Tim Canova is basically Russian influence too. Described nothing less than treason by the NRA, and I have huge questions. No, how is that treason when nothing illegal occurred? And I have huge questions. Forget about Trump and even forget about the NRA. I want to know, where was the Obama administration? Okay, here you go. Where was the Obama administration, the CIA, the FBI, and the NSA from 2010 through 2016? They all knew this was occurring and they did nothing. Is this also treason by omission of duty to protect America, American democracy, and the American election? Folks, this is what we mean when I say over and over, both major parties are to blame for the current... So this is a Russia panicker who, she's so head over heels over this that she now asks the obvious question, how come Obama did nothing about it? And then you have all these other people... so much supposition and so little fact to try to force a viewpoint. We expect better from the Rolling Stone. Well, you should have read all the other crap they've done. Congratulations, Rolling Stone. You have surpassed Pravda in old Soviet Russia for publishing pure, mind-numbing propaganda of Pulp Fiction. This article is absolutely unhinged, completely separate from any reality. Hall feels that Putin is not journalism, it's fantasy. So, this one person's arguing with him. People are basically, nobody believes in this. The NRA lost legitimacy the moment they turned into a lobby for the gun makers. So, who else is this? We don't have that much time anyway. Is this the real Gil Vider? Here's one guy. The utter foolishness of this article is incredible. Protecting the Second Amendment is now apparently a Russian narrative, according to Rolling Stone. Protecting American workers and wanting to keep illegal immigrants out of the United States must also be a Russian narrative. In your manic imagination, anyone who would dare defend these positions must be a Russian bot. So then here's this woman. I do not understand how Russian citizens can come to our country at will. So this guy says we're not at war with Russia and they're not our declared enemy. And then this woman says they get passports, moron. And then this person puts out the obvious reaction. Well, they get a visa to enter the U.S. Who provides that visa, by the way? It's the United States. It's the U.S. It's the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. And then these people are still stuck with Steve Bannon, you know, as if the events of the past year have not occurred. I mean, so anyway, that's it. Oh God, this is so funny, man. I could just read this for days. You've been eating bad borscht again, comrade. This guy with the Confederate St. Patrick's Day logo. Good. I'm totally in favor of pro-gun activists supporting each other all over the world. Not in any mood for sermonizing about electioneering ethics from the Democratic Party either. This article made everybody, you know, Rolling Stone. I remember when they were relevant. Of course, I'm old. Yeah, that's it. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. I'll be back some other time.